This brief PowerPoint presentation will demonstrate Betty Neuman's Neuman system model and provide you with background on it and demonstrate how the meta-paradigms that you have learned so far relate to the development and expression of this particular theory. You'll be able to differentiate between the key element of nursing in Neuman's theory, which is primary, secondary, and tertiary prevention. There's 5 client variables that she has. This relates to the meta-paradigm of person. She has a view of environment as it relates to wellness and illness that is energy focused, and you're going to see how lines of defense fit into her theory and contribute to patients' health or illness. We'll be able to explain those basic components and basically how they relate to the meta-paradigms. And as far as networking, there is a connection and a link to various theories and theoretical uses of her model. Okay, let's talk a little about Betty Neuman. She was born in southeastern Ohio. I've lived quite a bit in southwestern Ohio, so I'm familiar somewhat with this region of the country. Sadly, her father passed away after an illness when she was only 11 years old, and this influenced her desire to go into nursing. She graduated from high school right after World War II, and so college was not an option for many people at this time in our country's history. She did become an aircraft instrument repair tech and eventually joined the Cadet Nurse Corps, where she had a diploma in nursing, which was not uncommon in this particular age of our profession. However, she had broad experience in the practice of nursing, from basically communicable disease to critical care, so community to which you'll later see as primary, to tertiary nursing care, and that influenced her development of her theory. She had a BSN and Master's in Public Health from UCLA and from a doctoral degree in clinical psychology that she earned in 1985. The focus of this model was really nursing education, so it provides a very broad, I would almost say a grand theory for explaining how people's health is impacted by their environment and how the nurse engages to provide nursing care within that set of belief systems. And it's a framework to view all kinds of elements related to health. So in Neuman's model, a system holds together its parts. And this relates to the nursing paradigm because nursing is a complete whole with smaller wholes or parts. And that's how she defines nursing. In the system, there's dynamic energy exchange. This is a very important part of her theory, which makes sense because in the 1970s, there was a strong interest in physics and a lot of discussion about negentropy and entropy in the science world. And so this influenced her thinking of health as energy stability. Energy moves towards evolution, which is called negentropy, as a system absorbs energy and increases its organization, complexity, and development. And that leads to a steadier wellness state. That is her definition of health. But the system can also move away from stability, and that's called entropy. And once again, it's a term from physics. And that entropy leads to disorganization, increasing randomness, and energy dissipation. And that would be also part of her understanding of health meta-paradigm. And in this case, that would be descriptive of illness. So she defines nursing as taking action in stress-related situation or in reaction to that client system. Any system tries to maintain a steady state, and this is what she believes of the person. So the person is trying to maintain that health state, but other forces can disrupt and act upon it. So these forces are stressors, and she looks for identifiable signs or symptoms of stress and believes that nursing can mitigate this impact on the person's health through early intervention. Each client, and this would be the person metaparadigm proposition, that client is a composite of factors, and we'll see the 5 factors that she presents, and there's a range of responses that a client has to that, basically internal and external environment. She says there's many unknown environmental stressors. Each is different. This model basically accepts that there are many differences in people's experiences with the environment. I want to remind you that a proposition is a relationship between the 4 metaparadigms. So in this case, she says the client system has a range of responses to the environment, and that results in health if defense can be protected and prevent health deviations. So in this case, we have the client interacting with the environment to result in a state of health or wellness or illness. And so those are propositions of those 3 metaparadigms in this particular model. Here's a health environment proposition. When the flexible line of defense can't protect the client against that environmental stressor, the stressor breaks through the normal line of defense. And this interrelationship of variables determines how a person reacts in any given situation. Here's a person health proposition. The client's dynamic. Most people today accept that very well, and wellness is on a continuum. Again, it's helpful to consider that and applicable to all kinds of nursing situations. And within that client system, people have resistance. We might call that today more resilience, which stabilizes and returns them to wellness or a higher level of stability after a stress reaction. So that's an example of a person health proposition. And we might today, again, call this resistance, resilience, but there could be other kinds of resistance. If you think about the skin and how it protects the body, that is a form of resistance, protecting the body from other bacteria and insults that it could have. Now we get to her 3 levels of prevention. Primary preventions, general knowledge. These are all typically health promotion terms, both primary, secondary, and tertiary. If you think of a person with hypertension or the general population, the message is exercise, prevent weight gain, and eat a low-salt diet, and we can prevent hypertension. Secondary prevention is when there's symptoms that follow a diet that has been unhealthy, weight gain, and evidence that there's an elevation in blood pressure. And the treatment then might be antihypertensive medication. Tertiary prevention then is that adaptation that where the client moves back to primary prevention. So in this case, after the person receives the medication, you might start to work again for weight loss, restoration of diet, and returning the person to their pre-symptom health. So the client is dynamic, constant energy exchange with this, and that is another proposition of this particular nursing systems theory. Here are the 5 elements that help define what it is to be human. There's a physiological. In this case, there was an elevation of blood pressure. Psychological, what the person thinks about their health or wellness. They might dismiss that sign or symptom. There's social cultural elements. There might be foods that are important to the person, or a idea that a larger body is a better body, and so there might be resistance to change in health. There's developmental aspects. A person may have a lot of demands on their time that prevents them from making a healthy choice. And then there's a spiritual component to each individual, and that's how they relate to a higher being or something larger than themselves. Then there are these three environments that people have. An internal environment, this is basically how people react to the world around them internally. People can look very calm on the outside, but inside they can be experiencing stress. There's the external environment, and then there's the environment of people create. And so this is a little more challenging to understand, but because it can involve both internal and external. Sometimes the created environment includes denial, and other times it can include resilience. So that is that important meta paradigm of environment. Finally, this is the last slide, that the applications of this theory, although it started out to be a framework for nursing education, to educate nurses. It's now used in practice, administration, research, and I've provided a link here that goes to the different, that link provides examples of Neuman system models in practice. So I just want you to know that NeumanSystemsModel.org provides many other resources about this particular model. As you're selecting an article, you might search Neuman systems model and one of your terms from your critical case to find an article to annotate, and you can see different applications of the theory than in a research or other scholarly article that you find. Thanks for dropping by. This has been Dr. Dana Brackney on a discussion of Neuman system model.